Hello and welcome to Wavescan, the international DX program from Adventist World Radio. Researched and written in Indianapolis by Adrian Peterson and produced in the studios of WRMI Shortwave in Okeechobee, Florida. I'm Jeff White. Today on Wavescan, the story of the BBC Central Mediterranean Relay Station in Malta, a book review about Radio Pakistan, and our Japan DX report. The island of Malta is located in the central Mediterranean between Sicily and North Africa. The name Malta comes from the ancient Greek word melite, and it means sweet honey. Today on Wavescan, Ray Robinson of KVOH has the story of the BBC Central Mediterranean Relay Station on Malta.
Thanks, Jeff. There are actually 5 main islands belonging to Malta, 3 of which are inhabited. The capital city is Valletta on the north coast of the main island Malta. With a total land area of only 122 square miles, and yet a total population approaching 500,000, they are one of the most densely populated countries in the world. Tourism is one of their main industries, with more than 1 million visitors coming to the islands each year. There are 2 official languages in Malta, English and Maltese. The Maltese language traces its earliest origins back to a form of ancient Arabic spoken previously on the nearby island of Sicily. However, the Maltese language is written with the English script, not with the Arabic cursive writing. In ancient times, there were 2 unique forms of life on the island, the dwarf elephant and the pygmy hippopotamus, each of them only half the size of their African relatives, though both are long since extinct. In prehistoric times, the earliest colonists constructed Neolithic stone temples, which they say today are the oldest stone structures anywhere in the world. The islands were colonized by the Phoenicians from the Middle East, and they were followed by settlers from Greece. Malta was conquered successively by, among others, Carthage, Rome, the Arabs, Sicily, France, and then by England. The unique toy dog, the Maltese, is quite small, with long silky hair reaching to the ground. The dog was highly favoured by noble women back 2,000 years ago. The Roman poet Martial wrote a poem about a Maltese named Issa that was owned by his friend Publius, governor of Malta. During the winter of 60 AD, St. Paul was shipwrecked on Malta, as recorded in Acts chapter 27. He befriended Governor Publius, who converted to the new Christianity along with the entire population of the island. In more recent times, the British constructed a naval fort at Delimara Point on the extreme eastern edge of the island of Malta in 1876. The name Delimara in the Maltese language means the shadow of a woman. The story of the BBC Central Mediterranean Relay Station seems to begin not in Malta, but back on the island of Cyprus in the year 1959. The World Radio TV Handbook for that year lists a radio broadcasting station with the slogan Radio Independent Transmitting Unit, ITU. In 1959, as the WRTH states, a broadcast unit was on the air at the British communication station at Episcopi, with a 3.5-hour daily service in English from 1200 to 1530 UTC on 7130 kHz at a power level of 0.5 kilowatt. A service in Arabic was also in the planning stage. It's probable that this new shortwave service in the Middle East, temporary and experimental, was intended to grow into a larger facility akin to the earlier Radio Sharq Al Adna, previously on the air on this same island, Cyprus. This new radio service, under the title Radio Independent Transmitting Unit ITU, was on the air for no more than a few months, and the entire project was seemingly transferred to the island of Malta. The WRTH listing states that a QSL response was available by letter. In the early part of the year 1959, a party of BBC personnel made a visit to Malta to assess the radio situation on the island. They rendered their official report in April. A new BBC relay station, designated as the BBC Central Mediterranean Relay Station, was soon afterwards installed in the Royal Navy fort at Delimara Point, on the extreme easternmost point on the island of Malta. This new relay station, with its 2 medium-wave transmitters at 20 kilowatts each, was inaugurated during the following year, 1960. The licensed output power from this BBC relay station, which was owned and operated by the Diplomatic Wireless Service, was 10 kilowatts, and only one transmitter was ever on the air at any one time. Programming was on the air 10 hours a day in 2 sessions, and it was a relay of the BBC Arabic service, which was beamed towards Libya and Tunisia. The initial channel used when the station was inaugurated was 1079 kHz. Then, in March of the following year, 1961, the channel was changed to 1178 kHz. In November 1968, the BBC announced that they planned to close the station, but it remained on the air, and in September 1969, the frequency was changed again, this time to 1546 kHz. 2 years later, another change was made to 1511 kHz. And then finally, in February 1973, after nearly 13 years of service, the BBC Central Mediterranean relay station was closed, supposedly due to a request from Egypt. The station was donated to the Radio Broadcasting Authority in Malta, and they reactivated it with 2 channels on the air simultaneously, 998 and 1546 kHz, each at 20 kilowatts. One channel was programmed in Italian and Arabic, and the other in Maltese. However, the entire facility was soon afterwards dismantled and reinstalled at Bezbezija, some 10 miles distant, almost in the centre of the island. The fort at Delimara Point was then abandoned and eventually leased to a pig farmer. Finally, in 2005, the land was transferred to Heritage Malta, and plans were implemented to turn the location into a museum and tourist site.
Thank you, Ray. Now let's listen to the national anthem of Malta.
You're listening to Wavescan from Adventist World Radio. Send your comments and reception reports to Wavescan, Box 29235, Indianapolis, Indiana 46229 in the United States. That's Wavescan, Box 29235, Indianapolis, Indiana 46229 in the USA. Or you can email us at wavescan@awr.org. Our email once again, wavescan@awr.org.
Some news now from the Danish Shortwave Club International. Anker Petersen sends us their DX window number 504, and in it is an item about Antarctica, 15475 kilohertz, LRA 36, Radio Nacional Arcángel San Gabriel at the Esperanza base, the Argentine base in Antarctica. Heard at 1837 to 2125 UTC, April 16th to 21st and the 23rd, with local weather, 45434 Sinpo in Chile, with a fluttery signal, 22222 in Italy. Heard by Wolfgang Buschel, Mauro Girodetti, Hugo Lopez, and Thomas Nilsson. Also heard from a Perseus remote receiver site in Hamburg, Germany, at 2042 to 2139 on April 23rd, with Argentine vocal and instrumental music and female announcers by Bruce Churchill in The Explorer. There's a new web page with the name Esperanza San Gabriel, and from there, it says that the program is named Esperanza al Mundo. They announce that internet audio will be coming soon. Their email address for QSLing, LRA 36, Radio Nacional Arcángel San Gabriel, is lra36@hotmail.com, says Horacio Negro in The Explorer. From Argentina itself, on 6060 kHz, DRAI in Buenos Aires, 2245 to 2302 UTC, heard on April 10th, news and music of the Andes, Siempre Argentina, with Latin American music and an ID as DRAI, Radiodifusión Argentina al Exterior. Music and an ID as Usted Escucha Vientos de Argentina. DRAI, la Radio Pública Argentina al Exterior. 44444 SINPO by Pedro Arunategui. Also, DRAI has been heard on 15345 kHz at 1936 to 1955 UTC with wonderful tango music and a Spanish Radio Pública program. Also an Italian program, 44444 SINPO, heard by Wolfgang Buschel and Mauro Giroletti. Wavescan presents Focus on Asia, a year-long series of reports about shortwave broadcasting and listening on the continent of Asia. Quite recently, another interesting radio book came to our notice. This book is of real interest to all who are involved in the international radio world, international radio monitors, shortwave listeners, amateur radio operators, and DXers. And it tells the full story of radio broadcasting in Pakistan from the very beginning right up to almost our own present era. This book, with its more than 300 pages of text and research information, was written by Nihal Ahmad, and it is presented in English under the rather logical title, A History of Radio Pakistan. The era covered in this well-prepared book runs from 1923, when the territories of Pakistan were still an undreamed vision under the British rule in India, up into the era when FM radio and TV transmission were well established. The book itself was published in the year 2005. As would be expected, the book begins with the story of the original radio broadcasting stations that were established in the territory of British India that later became West Pakistan. These early medium wave stations were located in Peshawar and Lahore. Around the time of partition between India and Pakistan in 1947, two clandestine stations in Peshawar and Karachi are noted. The details of the transition at midnight on August 14th from All India Radio to Radio Pakistan at the two official existing stations, Peshawar and Lahore, is presented in very interesting detail. The administration of Radio Pakistan began at Lahore, and it was then transferred to Karachi, and finally up to Rawalpindi, Islamabad. The outline story of the original shortwave Radio Charkel is given, and this station also ended up in Rawalpindi as APR3. This book, which is written in excellent English, presents the story of each local radio station in Pakistan, all 24 of them. Interesting details regarding each station are presented in a complete chapter dedicated to this purpose. The international shortwave facilities in Karachi and Islamabad are also presented. The author of this book, Nihal Ahmad, was born in Sherkot, in what was then the UP, the United Provinces of India. He was educated in Delhi and Karachi, and he joined Radio Pakistan in 1951. At the time when he retired in 1992, he was holding the position of program director for the entire network. This very interesting book, A History of Radio Pakistan, is available for purchase through the Internet. If you go to eBay and type in the author's name, Nihal Ahmad, A-H-M-A-D, and then add Radio Pakistan, you will find several copies, used and new, available for purchase at all sorts of prices. Next on Wavescan today, we go to Tokyo, Japan. Here is Yukiko Tsuji.
Hello, and welcome to the DX Report of the Month from Japan Shortwave Club, edited by Toshio Take, and I'm Yukiko Tsuji. We have several DX reports from our club members this week. PCJ Radio International Taiwan via Trincomalee, Sri Lanka was heard on 13720 kHz on April 6 from 12:30 to 13:30 UTC in English. SIO rating was 454. The program heard was Focus Asia Pacific and Happy Station Show. Vatican Radio via Philippine was heard on 15470 kHz on April 6 from 0146 to 0159 UTC in English. SIO rating was 353. Talk program and the news were aired. Radio Australia via T8WH Palau was received on 17800 kHz on April 5th from 0359 to 0500 UTC in English. SIO rating was 454. ID of World Harvest Radio was given at 0359. Then ABC News was heard, followed by Grandstand, which was the relay of football match. Radio Thailand was heard on 15590 kHz on April 8th from 0000 to 0100 UTC in English. SIO rating was 454. The programs heard were National News, followed by Global News at 0018, Business News at 0035. VOA via Udon Thani, Thailand was heard on 7575 kHz on April 7th from 1200 to 1300 UTC in English. VOA News, followed by Crossroads Asia at 12:05, International Edition at 12:30 were broadcast. Radio Sultanate of Oman was received on 15140 kHz on April 3rd from 2058 to 2110 UTC in Arabic. SIO rating was 252. Arabic songs were played. ID was given at 2100, followed by the news and radio drama. Radio Kuwait was heard on 15540 kHz on March 30th from 2040 to the sign-off at 2101 UTC in English. SIO rating was 252. Pop music was played, and the news was aired at 2050. Then announcement in Arabic was given at 2100, and it signed off at 2101. Eliniki Radiophonia from Greece was heard on 15630 kHz on April 7th from 2033 to 2048 UTC in Greek. SIO rating was 353. Greek music and the talk program were on the air. Parallel frequency 9430 kHz was SIO rating 332. Radio Caroline via IRRS was received on 7290 kHz on March 28th from the sign-on at 1857 to 1925 UTC in English. SIO rating was 332. It signed on with religious talk, and then ID of IRRS Milano was given. Radio Caroline's program started at 1900 with rock music and talk. It was a special broadcast for its 50th anniversary. WTWW from Lebanon, USA was heard on 5830 kHz on April 5th from 1020 to the sign-off at 1059 UTC in English. SIO rating was 352. Religious talk was broadcast, and the ID was given at 1059. Finally, Japan Shortwave Club will issue the QSL cards for the correct reports on a segment of Wavescan program. We are issuing QSL card by email to the report sent by email. Our address for your email report is jswcqsl@live.jp. I repeat, jswcqsl@live.jp. We continue to issue the printed QSL card by the same system as before. Your report should be addressed to JSWC PO Box 44, Kamakura, which is KAMAKURA, postal code 248-8691, Japan. 1 ILC or $2 for return postage will be appreciated. For this edition of DX Report, we would like to thank Mr. Iwao Nagatani, Mr. Mitsunori Kawazoe, Mr. Chiaki Shimada, and Mr. Mikoto Kidera for sharing the information with us. Thank you for listening, and please join us for our next edition of DX Report of Japan Showtime Club. I'm Yukiko Tsuji in Tokyo.
Thank you, Yukiko. We want to remind you that you can hear Wavescan each week on KVOH in Los Angeles at 0200 UTC Monday on the frequency of 9975 kilohertz. That's with 50 kilowatts from Los Angeles, California. And also, you can hear Wavescan on WWCR from Nashville, Tennessee, Saturdays at 1630 UTC on the frequency of 12,160 kilohertz, 12160 with 100 kilowatts from Nashville. This is an interesting item that was passed on to us by several people. The time signal station, the chronohertz station, WWV, has resumed broadcasting on 25 megahertz on a limited experimental basis. The broadcast consists of the normal WWV signal heard on all other WWV frequencies at the same level of accuracy. Now, the current broadcast specifications for 25 megahertz, the schedule is variable. As an experimental broadcast, the 25 megahertz signal is not continuous. It will typically be on the air from approximately 1500 to 2100 UTC, Mondays through Fridays, but may operate outside these hours as well. The broadcast may be interrupted or suspended without notice. The radiated power varies. It's no more than 2,500 watts. The antenna being used is a broadband monopole. Listener comments and reception reports may be emailed to www.nist.gov. That's www.nist.gov. NIST stands for the National Institute of Standards and Technology. NIST radio station WWV broadcasts time and frequency information 24 hours per day, 7 days per week to millions of listeners worldwide. WWV is located in Fort Collins, Colorado, about 100 kilometers north of Denver. The broadcast information includes time announcements, standard time intervals, standard frequencies, UT time corrections, and a BCD time code, geophysical alerts, and marine storm warnings. WWV operates in the high-frequency or HF portion of the radio spectrum. The station radiates 10,000 watts on the frequencies of 5, 10, and 15 megahertz, and 2,500 watts on 2.5 and 20 megahertz. Each frequency is broadcast from a separate transmitter. Although each frequency carries the same information, multiple frequencies are used because the quality of HF reception depends on many factors such as location, time of year, time of day, the frequency being used, and atmospheric and ionospheric propagation conditions. The variety of frequencies makes it likely that at least one frequency will be usable at all times. The WWV antennas are half-wave vertical antennas that radiate omnidirectional patterns. There are actually 5 antennas at the station site, one for each frequency. Each antenna is connected to a single transmitter using a rigid coaxial line, and the site is designed so that no 2 coaxial lines cross. Each antenna is mounted on a tower that is approximately 1/2 wavelength tall. The tallest tower for 2.5 megahertz is about 60 meters tall. The shortest tower for 20 megahertz is about 7.5 meters tall. The top half of each antenna is a quarter wavelength radiating element. The bottom half of each antenna consists of 9 quarter wavelength wires that connect to the center of the tower and slope downwards to the ground at a 45-degree angle. This sloping skirt functions as the lower half of the radiating system and also guides the antennas. The signals broadcast by WWV use double sideband amplitude modulation. The modulation level is 50% for the steady tones, 50% for the BCD time code, 100% for the second pulses and the minute and the hour markers, and 75% for the voice announcements. We end today's edition of Wavescan with some folk music from Malta. Thanks for listening to Wavescan, the International DX program from Adventist World Radio, researched and written in Indianapolis by Dr. Adrian Peterson. Next week, a tribute to shortwave WYFR, International Relay Services. Surprising information, radio broadcasting in the islands of Antarctica, and our Philippine DX report. If you would like a Wavescan QSL card, you can send your reception report mentioning the date, the time, and the frequency that you heard us on, some program details, and let us know what reception was like in your area. Send your reports to Wavescan, Box 29235, Indianapolis, Indiana, 46229, USA. That's Wavescan, Box 29235, Indianapolis, Indiana, 46229, USA. You can email us at wavescan@awr.org. That's wavescan@awr.org. I'm Jeff White at WRMI in Okeechobee, Florida. Until next week, good listening, everyone.